Hey everybody, it's Diana from the Dianaverse, and I'm here today to do your new moon and Sagittarius forecast. If you enjoy these forecasts and you watch them, be sure to like and subscribe. And I think for YouTube to actually tell you when these come out, you also have to click on the notify bell. I don't know, they keep changing things, but yeah, would love for you to actually get these and know when they come out. So, Sagittarius. First of all, happy birthday to any Sagittarius that might be watching this. It's your birthday. It's your time to shine. Sagittarius is a fire sign. It's full of optimism. It's not a detail-oriented sign necessarily. On that axis with Sagittarius would be Gemini. And these are both very outgoing, get it done, new things, let me explore kind of signs. And I mentioned Gemini. My neighbors are doing their lawn right this minute. Okay, hold on. Okay, I think they've moved to the front yard, maybe, so I'm going to try this again. And this is kind of like what it's like at the moment. With this new moon, Sagittarius, we're optimistic, we want to start stuff. You can see behind me all the green start gardening I'm doing, and things are sprouting, which is fun. And if you were looking for that video at the end of the last video, I tried to make it twice and my phone kept cutting me off and not recording, so I gotta figure out why it's doing that. But anyway, maybe you have enough green stalk videos out there in the world. So Sagittarius is a fire sign. It wants to take action. Like I said, it's not necessarily focused on all the details. It has a bigger goal in mind. It has a long-range plan, and it's going to stick to it. But we also have Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius, and so all the stuff that we're trying to say and put out there in the world, especially if you're a merchant or you're trying to sell things, sales and stuff, you got Mercury retrograde who's slowing you down a bit. People take things really the opposite of what you would think they would take. I hope you're not having any things blowing up, and I say that because Mercury and Jupiter are in mutual reception. That means that Jupiter is in Gemini, which is Mercury's one of Mercury's signs, and then Mercury is in Sagittarius, which is one of Jupiter's signs. And so they're having this really in-depth conversation between how we do merchant-type things. It can also be because Mercury was also the only planet that could go into, or the only god, in the mythology that could go into the underworld. He could go between worlds, and so if you're trying to make connections in places, Jupiter can be good for that, although Jupiter and Mercury are both retrograde, and so it's not likely that things will just zip along. Like, you're thinking big, you got goals, communications can have big snafus. Had that happen over the holidays. I hope your holidays were peaceful and happy, but there's some agitated energy out there, so just be aware it's not just you or just your family or your friends, whoever you're trying to communicate with. Because this is the benefic, Jupiter is a benefic planet. It's not like Saturn, which is a heavy planet, right? They call that a malefic because it's inclined to do things that we don't think of as fun. Jupiter, on the other hand, is also just so optimistic. It rules Sagittarius. It wants to do things in a big way. It might have to slow down and see what those steps are doing in reality, because it's interacting with that Saturn, which is also retrograde. And Saturn in Pisces still, because it went retrograde, it's in there for a bit. That Saturn is squaring both the Jupiter, our big ideas, our big plans, and it's also squaring, just had it in my head, where to go, shoot, can't think now. Anyway, maybe I'll come back to it. So it's slowing us down, right? It's like, can you really do that? What would that take? Are you rooting that in reality, or is it just a big idea? Jupiter is the king of big ideas. And you want to dream big, right? Otherwise, where do you get? Nowhere. But you also have to be able to bring that into reality. Now, a lot of the outer planets are retrograde at the moment. You've got Jupiter, you've got Saturn, some of the inner planets. So it's from like all the way out to all the way in, from the world at large to our own personal lives. We've got a lot going on. Mars is stationing to go retrograde. So Mars is in Leo, and it's in there for quite a while. It's going to be there into the spring because it goes retrograde and that has to come back out. That's the planet that Saturn was squaring, Mars. So Mars is our sacred warrior, right? It wants to take action. Also, it wants to get things done. There's a lot of fire out there. You've got the sun and the moon, because that's what happens at a new moon. The sun and the moon are in the same place. You've also got your Mercury there, your communicator planet, your merchant planet. And being that it's the holidays, I would say also tapping into that, things from the past, Mercury retrograde, like and the fact that he's a psychopomp that goes into the underworld. I think there's going to be a lot around history, like family history, country's history, that's going to be brought up, and people are going to have feelings about it, right? You've got the moon in Sagittarius, how you feel about all of this optimistic stuff, but yet, you know, there's people missing. There's people who passed, or pets even. Sometimes people are very attached to pets and they think about them around the holidays, right? So realize that everybody's got a lot going on, right? Hopefully this all leads to some healing and some optimism that you can carry forward, because it's, you know, there's that big Jupiter influence ruling all that stuff in Sagittarius right now, but it's not going to necessarily be easy to get there. Now this coming week, the planets are moving around and interacting quite a bit. There's going to be a lot of things interacting with that Sagittarius point where this new moon is, and we've got Athena moving into Capricorn today, so that will be, Athena has a feminine energy, but she has a lot of masculine traits. She was the goddess of wars. Her father put her in charge of warfare. She was very intellectualized. She never was raised by a woman, and so it's sort of the masculine side of the feminine. Look for women to be setting boundaries and starting stuff. That's a possibility. We move on to the 1st, tomorrow, Sunday, and we've got the moon is going to be scoring that Saturn. So how we feel about where we want to go, how we want to be optimistic, but it runs into Saturn and Pisces. How does this work for everybody? Is everybody on board with your big idea? Not necessarily, right? So then you got to work it out. Take some negotiating. Later that same day, you've got that Mercury in Sagittarius trining Chiron in Aries. So there is a lot of fire going on Sunday, and people might be fired up. Take it with a grain of salt and try not to get triggered. Or if you did get triggered, keep it to yourself and work on it so you can get to that healing of Chiron at the end of the day. Unless you're with somebody you can talk it out with, because Mercury loves to talk it out. So if you have somebody you can talk it out with, it could be a great moment to transform some stuff and heal. We've also got that moon in Sagittarius trining. Oh, that's the same aspect, sorry. I was looking at this other one. The moon is going to be conjunct with Mercury. So it's, again, it can be like the family, right? And hopefully whatever comes up, whatever things are talked about, are going to lead to this healing a little later in the day. So on Monday, we've got Venus in Capricorn that is trining Uranus in Taurus. And so Venus rules Taurus, right? And Uranus is also retrograde, like all these, it's big societal shifts. We might not see it until we look back later. I mean, I'm sure there's some things that you could point to now, but we won't know how that plays out until later. But all the gears are turning now. These outer planets are big societal changes, and Uranus is definitely going to be a part of that in Taurus. And so Uranus has been in Taurus for a number of years. It's getting towards the end of Taurus, and so this is kind of our opportunity to build life the way we want it. Hopefully the day before you work through a bunch of old thought patterns, and now you're ready to really get down to building stuff that you're not going to see for a little while, but you got to make plans before you get there, right? So that is on Monday. And then Tuesday the 3rd, we've got that Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius is sextiling Vesta. And Vesta is like the goddess of the hearth and home. So it's a great time maybe to find some deals on things for the home. You could bargain. It could be a good day to get bargains. That's not necessarily super exciting. But we go on to the 4th on Wednesday, and we've got that Venus in Capricorn is sextiling Neptune. So now we've moved from Uranus to Neptune, and Neptune is more the realm of dreams. It can be water things, so a sextile is generally a good aspect. But if you've had any kind of pipes and things in your home and they aren't taken care of, they can easily, because sextiles are easy, it's not always a good thing. If you haven't been taking care of some stuff, that Neptune could get in there with some water. So you might keep an eye on things like that. And then there's kind of a big, they call it a T-square, where you've got two axes that are crossing each other, and these are all the mutable signs. So you've got your Sagittarius, your Gemini, and then that's being crossed, or in a way you could say opposed by and I don't have my computer in front of me. Anyway, there's just a lot of dynamic tension, because maybe you don't want to hear about every planet and aspect, just what does it mean? There's going to be a lot of tension, especially if you're in those kinds of signs, like the Gemini and Sagittarius and Pisces and Virgo. That's what those other two signs were. And so those particular signs are going to have a lot of opportunity to move things, whether you particularly want to or not, but hopefully this will lead to some positive things. So, my rock friends for this month, or this lunation, not this month. I'm working with fossils right now. I'm working with snail shells particularly, because the snails are no longer in there, and yet they remain, right? There's the energy of that creature that is there. So if you think about your legacy, whether it's just teaching your grandkids or something that you would like to accomplish in the world, I feel like fossils or empty snail shells, that sort of thing, clam shells, can really help somehow. And this is just an intuition that I have. I'm not sure exactly how that works, but I just feel like these are animals that are, their divine expression is to leave a sign of themselves behind. And so they can help facilitate us in whatever it is that we would like to pass on to the world. And then my herbs that I'm working with right now, I think I'm working with hibiscus. I've been drinking a lot of hibiscus, especially this time of year, that you can get more vitamin C, and it kind of helps create some movement in the body, right? A little diuretic if you drink a big cup of tea. So that's what I would recommend. Everyone here is like, oh, it's so cold today. It's like 78. I'm dying of heat stroke still. Everybody else is cold. And it's just, you know, it's a weirdly optimistic yet uncomfortable time period that we're going through. So we'll see what happens with the full moon in 2 weeks. All right. Thanks, y'all. Take care.